Hello, and welcome to the World Activity Today. We are talking about top 6 most dangerous stairs in the world, so let's start. Number 1. The final, harrowing ascent of Angel's Landing, known colloquially as the Spine, presents the most dangerous steps of the entire trail, where a single misstep could result in a catastrophic fall. This section is a narrow, sandstone ridge, in places only a few feet wide, with sheer, dizzying drop-offs exceeding 1,000 feet on both sides. The National Park Service has installed a bolted chain link rope to serve as a vital lifeline, but this aid introduces its own insidious dangers. It creates choke points where hikers must navigate past each other on a precipice, a nerve-wracking ballet of communication and trust that can lead to fatal hesitation or a loss of balance. The rock itself, polished to a slick sheen by millions of footsteps and weather, offers precarious footing even on dry days, while hidden patches of sand or unexpected rain can transform it into a treacherously slick surface. The psychological toll is immense, as exposure-induced vertigo and acrophobia can trigger paralysis or panic, causing a hiker to freeze precisely where they are most vulnerable. It is a combination of these objective hazards, the extreme exposure, the unreliable rock, the congested human traffic on the narrow path, and the overwhelming mental fatigue that coalesces into a moment where the line between breathtaking awe and sheer terror is as thin as the ridge itself, earning the trail its formidable reputation and, tragically, claiming lives over the years. Number 2. While the modern El Camino del Rey has been rendered as safe via ferrata-style walkway, its terrifying reputation was forged on the original, decaying path, where the most dangerous steps were not merely walked but survived, a nerve-shredding test of balance and nerve on the vertiginous limestone cliffs of the Gaitans Gorge. The peril was multifaceted. Vast sections of the concrete pathway had completely collapsed, leaving only the rusted, skeletal remains of the support beams jutting out over a 330-foot drop to the roaring Guadalhorce River below, forcing daredevils to tightrope across narrow steel girders with nothing but air beneath them. The remaining fragments of the path were often fractured, uneven, and littered with debris, offering a treacherously unstable surface that was further jeopardized by the exposed rebar that snagged clothing and threatened to trip the unwary. This was all compounded by a complete lack of any meaningful safety barriers. The original handrail was a single, slender cable, often loose or broken, providing a psychological comfort at best and a fatal false sense of security at worst. The true apex of danger, however, was the psychological torment. The relentless, deafening wind that funneled through the narrow canyon, threatening to destabilize a climber, the dizzying exposure that could induce paralyzing vertigo, and the haunting awareness that a single slip on the gravel-strewn concrete or a misjudgment on a rusted beam would be irrevocable. A harrowing reality that earned the old path its grim title as the world's most dangerous walkway and claimed multiple lives before its ambitious restoration. Number 3. The ascent of Huayna Picchu, while shorter than its neighboring Machu Picchu mountain, presents a series of harrowing and potentially lethal steps that transform the hike from a scenic climb into a serious test of nerve and physicality, where a moment of inattention could lead to a fatal plunge. The most infamous section is the precipitous Stairs of Death near the summit, a vertiginous sequence of steep, irregular stone steps carved directly into the mountain spine, often worn smooth by centuries of erosion and foot traffic, which are terrifyingly exposed with sheer drop-offs of over 1,000 feet on one or both sides. These ancient steps are uneven, sometimes incredibly narrow, and offer little to no reliable handholds, forcing climbers to rely on a single, weathered cable bolted into the rock face, a lifeline that becomes a critical point of failure during frequent rain showers when the granite turns treacherously slick and the cable itself becomes a slippery, wet metal guide. The danger is exponentially compounded by the altitude, which can induce lightheadedness and fatigue precisely when balance and focus are most critical, and by the inevitable traffic jams at choke points, where passing another hiker requires a precarious, heart-stopping maneuver on the very edge of the abyss. It is this confluence of objective hazards, the extreme exposure, the unreliable footing, the variable weather, and the physiological effects of altitude, all set upon an ancient, unrestored Inca trail with minimal modern safety interventions, that solidifies Huayna Picchu's reputation as a climb where the breathtaking views are matched only by the very real and present danger of the path itself. Number 4. The final 400-foot ascent up Half Dome's granite shoulder via the infamous cable route is arguably one of the most perilous stretches of maintained trail in the United States. A nerve-wracking and exposed climb where a loss of grip or footing can easily result in a catastrophic 1,000-foot fall. The danger stems from the sheer, slick, and relentlessly steep incline of the dome's polished granite surface, which angles between 45 and 60 degrees, offering absolutely no natural traction and functioning like a slippery slide when wet. The primary and terrifyingly inadequate safety system consists of 2 parallel steel cables raised on waist-high metal poles bolted into the rock every 10 to 20 feet. These are not a continuous handrail, but an intermittent series of handholds that require hikers to constantly regrip, creating moments of vulnerability, especially when the wooden planks placed beneath the poles as footholds are absent or spaced too far apart. This setup creates lethal choke points where ascending and descending traffic must navigate around each other on a surface barely wider than a sidewalk, a process that demands precarious shuffling, relinquishing one's secure grip on the cable, and trusting strangers on a slope where there is no margin for error. The peril is exponentially magnified by sudden Sierra weather shifts, as a brief rain shower or even morning dew can transform the granite into a frictionless pane of glass, making the cables not just essential, but the only conceivable means of preventing a slide into oblivion, a fact underscored by the numerous fatalities that have occurred when hikers, whether due to fatigue, overcrowding, hubris, or bad weather, have lost their tenuous purchase on the cable or their footing on the rock. Number 5. The ascent to the Tiger Cave Temple, Wat Tam Suya, in Krabi, is a brutally vertical pilgrimage that presents a relentless and psychologically grueling series of dangers, primarily centered on the staggering 1,237 steps that scale the limestone karst. The most immediate peril is the sheer, almost ladder-like incline of the staircase itself, which charges directly up the cliff face at an average angle of 70 to 80 degrees, demanding a full-body climb, where climbers often find themselves leaning forward until their hands touch the steps in front of them to maintain balance and distribute aching muscle fatigue. This steepness is compounded by the steps' construction. They are uneven, often shallow in depth, and worn smooth by millions of footsteps, offering a precarious and sometimes insufficient ledge for the entire foot, while the single, continuous handrail, though vital, becomes a searingly hot metal guide in the oppressive Thai heat and a congested bottleneck during busy periods, forcing exhausted climbers to stop and hold on mid-step on a vertiginous ascent. The environment itself is a key antagonist. The suffocating humidity and intense heat rapidly induce dehydration, dizziness, and leg cramps precisely when stability is most critical, and a sudden tropical downpour can instantly transform the entire staircase into a treacherously slick watercourse, eliminating all friction. The final, insidious danger is psychological. The combination of physical exhaustion, the dizzying exposure when glancing back at the shrinking ground, and the pressure of the relentless line of climbers behind you creates a scenario where there is no option to easily turn back, forcing fatigued and potentially impaired hikers to push onward toward the summit on a path that offers no room for error and no recovery from a misplaced step or a fainting spell. Number 6. The Florley Stairs, claiming the title of the world's longest wooden staircase, present a unique and formidable danger rooted not in exposure to sheer drop-offs, but in a relentless, soul-crushing combination of isolation, brutal physicality, and the ever-present risk of catastrophic mechanical failure on a truly industrial scale. Unlike mountain trails that weave and offer respite, the stairs are an uncompromising, near-vertical ladder of 4,444 wooden steps bolted directly onto the raw granite face of the Lysa Fjord, rising over 2,400 feet from the fjord's edge with an average incline that feels more like climbing a never-ending fire escape than a hike. The peril here is one of attrition and consequence. The steps, often slick with Nordic mist and rain, are uneven, sometimes missing or loose, demanding constant vigilance for a misstep that could lead to a twisted ankle or a long fall through a gap in structure, while the sheer number of steps induces a deep, debilitating fatigue in the legs and knees that exponentially increases the risk of a stumble on the descent when control is most compromised. The most profound danger, however, is the extreme remoteness and the sheer vertical gain. There is no easy exit, no rescue access, and no cell service for much of the climb, meaning any significant injury, a broken bone, a heart attack from the strain, or severe dehydration, becomes a life-threatening emergency, forcing a desperate and slow evacuation from a structure that clings to a mountainside far from any immediate help. This sense of vulnerability is amplified by the staircase's original purpose as access for maintenance workers to a decommissioned power plant, a stark reminder that it is an industrial artifact, not a recreational trail, and a structural failure in this harsh environment, though unlikely, would have unthinkable outcomes, making the Florley stay